Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even some true crime.
And Holly needs to eat a Snickers because she is cranky.
I am cranky. Oh my gosh. Listen, but actually, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. Emmy came in to my room just a few minutes ago while I was working on shit, and she said, Mom, she's watching The Good Witch, by the way. And so she comes in and she says, I know that you hate a lot of people because that's just your personality, but like, does our family hate another family, like a feud? And I said no, and she was like, but why? Which I thought was fun.
I don't know. It's possible that we hate another family as a feud.
I mean, we are from Kentucky. We do have the Hatfield and McCoy thing going.
Yeah. There was a whole lot of people that we grew up with in Van Lear that Grandma wouldn't let us associate with because they were white trash.
Well, that's true. But yeah, I am cranky. Like this has been a long marching season, and we're not even halfway done with it yet.
It's still the beginning.
It is still the beginning. I'm just tired. I'm tired. Oh my God, I'm so tired. We have a couple of, and by a couple, I literally mean a couple of new parents that the brand new parents who are hanging out and trying to learn some things. And last week I was giving them lots and lots and lots of pointers on how things move and operate, and I think I'm just going to have to write a manual to hand down to give people when I'm gone, because I'm not getting any help, and it's probably because I do hate people, and I'm sorry that I hate people, but that's just my personality, as Emmy says.
This might be a good time for us to give advice to any listeners who have a child in marching band
or any sport.
You are absolutely just as much a part of that team as your kid is, so please step up to the plate and learn what you can do to help, because I guarantee you that your coaches or directors are like scrambling to get everything that they need to do done. They need your help.
Yeah. Hey, so guess what starts in November?
What?
Let's look ahead to that. Swimming season.
Ooh.
I'm excited. I'm excited about it being maybe a little less crazy.
I'm so stinking excited for her.
Me too. I'm excited that unlike marching band, you're not like staging your props and you're not busy with your own kid.
There's no props.
And because there's no props. Right. And that, you can go, you can drop your kid off, you can watch all of the heats. You get to see everybody. I'm excited about that. So what are we talking about today?
Random stuff from our lives.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I think we have a very exciting topic today.
I thought it was funny, before we start, I thought it was really funny that we got a listener message this week telling us a story, and it was great because I was like, that's the topic that we're talking about this week. So you got your story in just in time for it to be added to this episode.
And we will put it on this episode because it is perfect.
We will.
How many of our listeners, show of hands, have read the Outlander books or is watching the Starz series Outlander? Oh, good. There's a few of you.
And it's so cool that we can see.
I know.
Through...
Awesome. Thank you, Podbean. No, I started reading these books like way back in the early 90s when they first started coming out, and I absolutely fell in love with this. I think it's really fitting that the series just came back onto Starz as we were recording this episode, because in the books and in the TV show, it follows the story of a woman, Claire, who sort of falls through some standing stones in Inverness, Scotland, and is transported back into time. And that's pretty much exactly
cool.
What we're talking about today. Not falling through stones, but we are talking about time travel. I know some of our listeners are like, time travel? What? But some very important and very, very smart scientists believe in time travel.
Like Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking. Like, two of the most, smartest men ever.
Yeah. Einstein actually once said, the distinction between the past, present, and future is only an illusion, however persistent. And the whole Einstein Rosen bridge wormhole theory. Some of our smartest minds believe time travel is possible. So Who am I to argue with them?
Yeah. I mean, their only hang up is that we as people have not mastered the science needed to make it happen yet. But they believe that nature is fully capable of making it happen.
Like falling through standing stones.
Right. Or like the Flash, if you run real fast, you end up like on another Earth.
Or a wormhole opens up and suddenly you're not where you started.
Right.
And I think the whole past, present, future maybe existing at the same time is a good explanation for some paranormal experiences.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I am personally not smart enough to work through this science on my own. If we have listeners who are, more power to you. I'm in awe.
Yeah, I am. Math and science is really not my thing. Actually, math, science, and history are not my thing. Really, do I have a thing?
Cat hair and glitter.
Yeah, those are my things.
Okay, listeners, you might have noticed a little bit more noise behind us than normal. We're recording in the middle of the day.
We're also recording with a cold.
Yeah, well, you have a cold. I don't. But it is in the middle of the day, so my parrots and my parakeets are awake and active, and my bunny rabbit is up and moving around, and it's loud.
Yeah, we attempted to record last week, and by last week I mean just a couple days ago, but we were having some serious Skype issues.
Yeah, Skype was sucking for us.
And yeah, so after trying to restart it about 3 times, we just threw in the towel.
It was midnight. We were tired. We were cranky.
Yeah, more so than I am right now.
I got a phone call last night saying, hey, I'm giving you all of my animals. So this morning, we were supposed to record it at 1, and instead at 1 o'clock, I was going to my neighbor's house to pick up all of her ducks and chickens and rabbits. I have a crazy farm. I think that's what I'm going to name my farm, is the Crazy Farm.
You should. Does it have a name?
No.
It needs to be the Crazy Farm. Okay, so what story are we talking about first?
Well, I did find several suspected cases of people time traveling. I don't really think any of it is as cool as the movie Safety Not Guaranteed.
Right. Or the movie The Lake House.
Yes. If you have not watched the movie Safety Not Guaranteed, go out and watch it. Like right now. Find it on Netflix, or I don't know if it's on Netflix, but watch it.
Well, I didn't watch it. You talked about it like the last time we attempted to record, and I thought it sounded really cool because I hadn't heard of it.
Yes. Basically, the premise of the movie is this guy puts an ad in. And actually, let me see if I can pull up the ad. This guy puts an ad in a newspaper, and it says, wanted, somebody to go back in time with me. This is not a joke. P.O. Box 91, Ocean View, Washington, 99393. You'll get paid after we get back. Must bring your own weapons. Safety not guaranteed. I've only done this once before. These people who work at a newspaper, Seattle Magazine, see it, and they're sent down there to the girl, Darius Britt, played by Audrey Plaza, is sent there to sort of convince him that she's the one who wants to go back in time with him, and the movie goes from there. It's really awesome. You should watch it. Watch this movie.
Okay, I promise I'll watch the movie.
Is this like Office Space, when you told me you was going to watch the movie and then you never watched it?
I did watch it, though. I did finally watch it.
Was it as great as I said it was?
It was good, yeah. It was good.
I think everybody has had a moment where they want to take their copy machine out and beat the crap out of it.
Well, I like to do that with like most office equipment. When I worked for the agency that I used to work for, every once in a while our IT guy would call me and say, I haven't heard from you in a while, and I was just scared that you threw our computer out the window.
One person who says that he has traveled back in time, or who's traveled through time, is Sir Victor Goddard. He was a wing commander in Britain's Royal Air Force. He was flying an open cockpit biplane from Scotland to England while on leave. And as he passed over Drim Airfield near Edinburgh, he noticed that the tarmac and the 4 hangars were in complete and total disrepair. Barbed wire divided the field, was broken down. There was cattle grazing all around it.
Yeah, and it was run down and looked abandoned.
Yeah. So later that day, on his way back home, he passed through a storm and lost control of his airplane.
But he didn't crash it.
No, he didn't. When he finally got control of it, he was...
He said that the sky filled up with sunlight, and he then passed over the airfield again, and this time the farmland was gone, the hangars were all fixed, and at the end of the tarmac stood 4 yellow planes and a monoplane surrounded by mechanics in blue overalls.
Which Royal Air Force mechanics wear brown.
Yes, and you know what? I'm glad that I'm so stupid, and I didn't Google, but when I was researching and it kept saying RAF, I didn't know what the fuck RAF was, and so I'm glad that you said that, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that is. Good times.
So some theorize that Goddard actually traveled forward in time.
But do we know if it ever ended up fixed?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But I don't know. That would be just describing, him flying in the storm and losing control. That poor man. Maybe when he got through with it, he was just a little disoriented.
Shaken?
Maybe he'd got off course a bit.
That's possible. I mean, I could not imagine. I like flying. We've only done it.
We did it 4 times, I guess, technically. We were on 4 different planes.
And I mean, I'm not scared, but I was also in a nice plane, and I wasn't like open air. I think that I would probably not like that too much.
Yeah, me too. I think probably one of the first time travel stories, actual events that I remember reading about is this next one. And it happened in France.
Oh, okay, good. Because I thought you were going to talk about the one I was going to talk about, and then I was going to be kind of sad.
Oh, no. I'm going to talk about Anne Moberly and her friend Eleanor Jourdain. And I don't know if I'm saying Jourdain right.
Do we ever say anything right?
No, true. They're both educators at at the time, St. Hugh's College in Oxford. This was 1901, so I'm sure both of these ladies are passed on.
It was 1901.
1901. They were visiting the Palace of Versailles, and I almost said Versailles.
Right, because we're in Kentucky and we say it wrong.
And we actually have a city in Kentucky called Versailles. It is spelled Versailles. It is pronounced Versailles.
We also have an Athens instead of an Athens.
I hate that.
I think we've said this before. Every time we say something about a town in Kentucky that's... I think it was Versailles that we were talking about then, too.
Probably.
Okay, continue.
So they were wandering around the yards at Versailles looking for the Petit Trianon. But anyway, it is a small chateau built on the grounds at Versailles. When they walked through this gator, and they said they started to feel a little odd, which I understand this feeling, because it's kind of the feeling that I get when I walk into a house that's haunted. You just get this little different feeling. They said they saw men wearing really long green coats and tricorn hats that directed them to go across this bridge. And when they got across the bridge, they saw a woman wearing 18th century clothing sitting on a little small stool sketching. When they went back home to England, they started doing a little research. And apparently, who they had seen sketching was Marie Antoinette.
Okay. Before or after she got beheaded?
I'm guessing before. Apparently, Marie Antoinette had been sitting outside of the Petit Trianon sketching when she learned that there was a mob in Paris that was marching to Versailles to take her head.
I can't believe in a few hours I shall be dead.
That was a different Queen, Holly.
Oh, well, okay. I'll cut that out then.
Y'all leave it in. They'll find out how silly we really are. No, that was Marie. That was not Marie Antoinette. That was Anne Boleyn.
Anne Boleyn.
Yes.
And bonus points for our listeners who knows who said that with a southern accent. Seriously. Okay, we're going to... If you know who said that line, I can't believe in a few hours I shall be dead, with a southern accent, the first person who messages us on Instagram and just says the name of the person, they will get a free Haunted Family Podcast Bloody Handprint t-shirt.
That's awesome.
I know. I just want to see if people actually listen and if they are as crazy as we are. So if you know who said that and you just comment on the Instagram post that goes with this episode. So it'll be the post with
it'll be a screenshot of our iTunes account, but it'll be this episode. So whatever
you just comment that person's name, and you could win a free Haunted Family Podcast shirt.
So here's another one from the Rafe Holly, the Royal Air Force. It was 1932, and a couple of newspaper reporters, a newspaper reporter and his photographer, J. Bernard Hutton and Joachim Brandt, were visiting the Hamburg shipyard to do some interviews. As they was walking out, they heard the unmistakable drone of heavy aircraft. And when they looked up, they saw that the sky was literally filled with planes. And just then, the planes started dropping bombs everywhere.
And they took pictures of this event.
They did take pictures of it. And when they got back to Hamburg, they got their film developed, and nothing. I mean, there was things in the pictures. It was the shipyard untouched. No planes in the sky, no bombs. Literally, their editors was accusing them of being drunk on duty.
And then a few years later, this event actually happened.
Yes. In 1943, the Royal Air Force did do an air raid on Hamburg, and the pictures that accompanied this news article that he was reading was identical to the pictures that him and his photographer had taken 11 years earlier when they were standing at the Hamburg shipyard taking those pictures, seeing the air raid happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was Operation... You
know what else is awesome?
It was
that I know what the RAF means now.
Yeah, it was Operation Gomorrah, and they dropped out 600 bombs on the city and killed 40,000 people. So, did these people see an event from the future? Probably. How else would they know that was going to happen?
Right.
And I do believe, I kind of do believe that sometimes things get crossed over, or we can see things from the future, things from the past. Like deja vu.
Right. I swear I had a deja vu this week. Or last week. I can't remember. My times are running together. But it was very weird because it wasn't like it was anything, I don't know, important or anything. It was just, seriously, we were just painting marching band props like I feel like we do all the time. But, so maybe that was it. Maybe it's not that it was deja vu, it's just we had done it the day before. Okay, let's talk about, and we might end up doing a larger episode on this, so I won't go into too much details about it, but the Philadelphia experiment.
Okay,
so for you that don't know, the Philadelphia experiment, and the reason I said this might be a larger episode is because Emmy is fascinated by this, so she'll be sad that she was not involved in this episode. So
where is she?
Just down the hall.
Oh, loser.
Yeah. Anyway, so it is a government experiment that was supposed to make the USS Eldridge naval carrier invisible using electromagnetic something or another.
You're so technical.
And this, I know, don't you like, this is something or another is the correct scientific term for what they did. No, it happened in fall of 1943. And what really we don't even know if this really happened because they say it did not happen, and there was no real reports of anything happening until 1950.
Is this like the whole I cannot confirm nor deny?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you know, I was listening to the radio the other day and heard the story of what it episode actually caused the whole we can neither confirm nor deny speech.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently the CIA was working with Howard Hughes to build something big enough to steal a Russian submarine that had sunk about 1,000 miles off the coast of Hawaii.
Okay.
And when it was leaked to the news, the CIA, trying to not to talk about this, CIA attorneys told them that they could just say, we can neither confirm nor deny any involvement in this.
Which basically confirms.
Pretty much.
In fall of 1943, this experiment took place. We're just going to say it took place because we don't know, we weren't there.
I think it did.
So what happened, instead of making it invisible, it disappeared from Philadelphia. And it reappeared in a couple seconds, then disappeared again, and then reappeared back in Pennsylvania. Now, this is where it's gross, because apparently we do not have Star Trek capabilities, and we can't beam people up. So there was bodies melted to the metal, and they were mangled, and it was disgusting.
Everything you would expect from a bad government experiment.
Yeah. So, though, there was this guy, Alfred, I'm going to totally butcher your last name, Alfred Bielek. And he said that he was a survivor of this experiment. That he was born in 1916 as Ed Cameron. And he was recruited for the project in 1940. And this is where it gets insane. You know, as if saying that anything could disappear and reappear somewhere else is not saying, it's not being crazy. But he said that he was interrogated by aliens, and they physically regressed him to a 1-year-old, and that he was then renamed to Alfred Bielek, and so that's how he was two different people from two different times.
That's weird.
Yeah. That's where you, like, the whole time travel thing, I think it's possible, but you run into some crazy shit. I mean, I've watched Back to the Future. It's possible. I think with this, with the time traveling, time slips, I think that kind of explains some of the Mandela effect.
I think it's like the whole butterfly effect. That a small change here can have drastic effects somewhere else.
Right, and that's also a good movie if you've never watched it. Let's make a list for our listeners. We'll post it somewhere, like our top list of time traveling movies.
I'm jotting that down right now.
I mean, I don't have a whole story on it, but I mean, you get situations like the Swiss Army watch that was found inside a Ming Dynasty tomb.
Well, I mean, and then you find like little things like pictures online that aren't photo edited, that someone in it's out of place.
Right, they're dressed completely inappropriate for the time period, and of course it could just be a picture of Abby because she almost always dresses inappropriate for the time period
and the weather conditions. Yeah, but I mean, let's see. I think one of the famouser ones is the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in the 1940s. There's a guy standing there wearing what looks to be a modern screen printed t-shirt and sunglasses, and everyone around him is dressed like the 1940s. Button-up shirts, jackets, hats on. The women are all wearing gloves. And he just does not look... He doesn't fit the part. So I would urge you, if you were going to travel back in time, please dress for the time period.
Right. Oh, Quantum Leap. That's another good one.
Yes.
You know something? Quantum Leap is actually how I found out about dyslexia.
Really?
They had an episode on it, and the person reversed numbers, which is not really dyslexia, it's dyscalculia.
Yeah. There's a picture online that from the 1930s that supposedly shows a woman holding a cell phone to her ear.
Wonder who she'd be talking to.
Maybe that guy who was in the Charlie Chaplin film holding a cell phone.
Maybe, but I mean, nobody talks on cell phones. My cell phone barely talks.
I know. So clearly she was from like the early 2000s.
Right, or late 90s. Isn't it neat how like almost all of these stories happened in the 40s and 50s?
Yes. But think about what was going on in the 40s and 50s.
Nuclear experiments, and
we were getting we've got a whole lot of physicists over from Germany. You know, science was really making major pushes in the 40s and 50s.
It's kind of sad that we're not doing that still.
I'm sure we are. I bet CERN is going to open up a black hole and like it's going to swallow us all or something.
Oh, that'd be fun. Okay, so here is one, and actually I believe this is the story that inspired us to think of this topic for this episode.
Okay.
There was a man on July 15th, I don't know why I said 15th. On July 1954, a man arrives in the Tokyo airport. He looks Caucasian, but he still gets stopped by officials, which to me is actually weird, because did they ever stop anybody in the 50s? Like, I thought that was just a recent thing.
I don't know.
But anyway,
a girl I went to high school with just immigrated to Canada.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she posted a picture online of one of her children sleeping in immigration. They're going up there for a few years for her husband's work. So, I mean, they're not moving to Canada permanently. She posted pictures of her kids today, still wearing the same clothes they were traveling in yesterday, still in airports.
Oh.
I feel bad for them. But they'll be in their home base soon, so that's good.
Okay, so they stopped him.
Could not imagine uprooting and moving to another country for a couple of years.
Me either.
With 3 children. She's got more patience than I do.
Anyway, so they stopped him to check his passport. And he came from a country. Okay, the passport looked genuine. The only issue was the country. It said that he was from a country called Taured. Taured. They ask him, where is this country? And they show him a map. And he points towards Andorra. And he gets mad because he's never heard of Andorra. I've never heard of Andorra. And he doesn't know why his country is not there. So, to him, he said it's existed for more than 1,000 years. So he said that it had been in existence for about 1,000 years. He had money from several different European currencies. His passport had been stamped by several airports, including a previous stamp in Tokyo. The people at the airport were baffled. So they took him to a hotel, and they placed him in a room, and they put 2 guards outside until they could figure out what was going on. So the company he said he worked for had no knowledge of him working for them, but it was a real company. He had lots of documentation on him that proved that he worked for them. The hotel that he was supposed to be staying in Tokyo had no clue who he was. And the company that he was there to do business with had no idea who he was. So, while there was guards outside the door, he never came outside. But when the police went in to see, to talk to him about all the findings that they found, he wasn't in the room. The hotel was several floors up, and there was no balcony, so they don't know how he got out unless he just leapt to a different time period.
Did you mention that the place he pointed to on a map for the location of Tarid was in the general area of where the Principality of Andorra is? Okay. I must have been texting about all these ducks I've got outside my house right now.
You need to name one Daffy, one Donald. Huey,
Maybe.
Dewey, and Louie.
So, what happened to him? I think this is one of the most fascinating stories because there is so much documentation.
Nobody
about
knows.
this.
He literally disappeared from the hotel room.
I mean, he didn't just go down the toilet.
Right. If this was Harry Potter, he could have.
Well, I think one thing I'm really glad that I hope that when he disappeared from this time that he ended up back in his own time.
Yeah, I hope that too.
Because, man, that would be scary showing up in an airport and literally finding out that you don't exist.
Oh, I would be scared to death. Okay, so our listener this week, we love getting messages, like, so much.
We do. We really do. But here, while you're looking up finding the listener message, we can't talk about time travel without talking about John Titor.
Okay.
Did you come across this while you were
Yes.
researching? Okay, well, way back in the early 2000s, actually between November 2000 and March 2001, this man pops onto the internet. And he says that he is from the year 2036 and warns us that there is a massive nuclear war on our horizon. I mean, there's literally still people on the internet trying to search for facts about this guy.
Yeah, okay, so he claimed that he was a soldier and he was fighting in, his unit was called the Fighting Diamondbacks.
That name has now been trademarked by an attorney in Florida who says he works for this guy. So, I'm skeptical about I totally believe this is fake, but the fact that they went out of their way to start copywriting and trademarking is major red flags.
He was from 2036. He was on his way back to 1978 when...
To pick up... No, he's going on his way back to 1975 to pick up an IBM 5100
right,
computer.
Because in 2036, we had a computer virus that was about to destroy the world.
I can see that happen. Stop it, trolls.
He said that the world was full of conflicts, that in 2015 there was a Russian nuclear strike that killed 3 billion people.
Yeah. His time machine was mounted inside of a 1967
Because they could
Chevy.
not afford a DeLorean. I know.
Losers.
Lame. And then he just stopped posting.
Yeah. He answered some questions and didn't answer others.
It kind of makes me want to buy an IBM 5100 though.
I bet your ex-husband has one.
Probably. If not, I bet bet he got rid of it. I was going to say our cousin who used to own the computer store, he probably had one, but I bet he got rid of it.
Probably. But, I mean, the fact that he was saying that he had to go back in time to get that one particular computer is not in itself weird, because NASA has actually had to buy equipment on eBay to scavenge for parts, to fix things that is obsolete. In 2002, NASA bought some old medical equipment on eBay so they could strip out the Intel 8086 chips to use for their booster tester for the Orion spacecraft. That kind of makes me a little scared.
I'm totally secure. I got it. It's all good.
So, I mean, I guess good thing I'm not in NASA. And I bet NASA's thinking, yeah, it's a good thing you're not in us, Heather, because you suck.
I know. You know who did work for NASA though?
Who?
The girl's great grandfather.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was part of the
Apollo.
I almost said the Ohio 13 mission. No, he was part of mission control for the Apollo 13 mission, apparently.
Yeah. My ex-husband is adopted, so we don't talk to this great grandfather, but we learned of it through his daughter's baby daddy.
I guess that's what you'd say.
Because they never got married. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so listener story, which makes us super happy. I'm not for sure if you wanted us to give out your name, so I'm just going to say Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Yay! So the story happened in 1973 or 74. They were 13 or 14 years old, not on drugs or alcohol. They came from a large family of 9 kids, and they were 4th from the bottom. So they had moved their bedroom down to the basement and kind of like made a room using curtains hung, to substitute for a wall.
And surprisingly, that is what the door for the bathroom in my sewing room is.
Oh, fun.
We've not installed the door yet.
So this makeshift curtain room had the usual, a bed, a dresser, a desk. On this night in particular, they were not really tired, so they were still awake, laying in bed reading. And they even told us what they were reading. Herod Experiment.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought that was really cool. It was a school night. Read a few chapters and then put the book on the nightstand. They were just kind of laying in bed, and they started to smell a really strong smell of flowers. Kind of old lady perfume. Didn't recognize the flower, but that's not uncommon because I'm 41 and I probably wouldn't be able to recognize flowers. But it was apparently so strong that they gasped, and then sat up. And that's when the drapes started swaying like there was something outside of it. But there was no drafts in the basement, so they just kind of stared at it. And then there was a glow, and it was kind of a yellowish green, and it grew bigger and bigger. And then, of course, by this time, they're completely wide awake and staring at the screen. Or staring at the drapes. Then their grandfather's words came to mind. You don't see this every day, which kind of made me laugh because I could totally hear our papa saying the exact same thing. Then the shimmering light got big enough that it was taking up 2 or 3 of the drapery panels. And then they thought that it was one of their siblings playing a trick on them. She was trying not to react, but she said her heart was just beating super fast. And slowly, though, a form started to appear in the glow, and it grew bigger and more defined, and kind of emerging from the glow. And then it became definable that it was a woman. She was dressed in a Victorian outfit, kind of a Southern Belle kind of look. Probably, Heather, what you wear when you do reenacting.
Okay.
She said it was so real that she could see the fingers placed in a loop as she lifted her dress so that the bottom didn't get dirty. But she doesn't remember the color of the dress or any other details. She said she's partially deaf, so her focus was on her face, and it was just very, very sad. And that she almost expected the Victorian woman to burst into tears at any minute, but she, at this point, wasn't really scared or alarmed. Just more astonished that, it was happening. Mm-hmm. And then the Victorian lady, started moving directly towards her. And she did, which this made me laugh because I have done this myself at shit I didn't want to see. Lay down, threw the covers over her head, and in her mind, she said she started doing what her mother had told her to do and called out in Jesus' name for it to leave. Which was what Grandma always told us to do when we saw stuff that we didn't want to see. So she just kept saying, I didn't see it, I didn't see it. She said that when she had German measles, she had hallucinated when she was really sick. So she was trying to say that it was just her imagination that was out of control. And then she gathered up enough courage to slide the covers back down and take a look. And instead of it being all clear like she had hoped, an inch from her face was the woman bent over, staring at her. And she said that it was not a evil face, but just like completely sorrowful, like she had lost a child or something like that. And then she screamed and scurried down to the bottom of her bed underneath the covers, and she stayed there until her mom started calling her name.
That's
terrifying.
Yeah. As Holly mentioned, I do Civil War reenacting, and I always joke with people that if you don't believe in ghosts, become a Civil War reenactor and you'll see some. We spend a lot of time on battlefields and at historic places, and when you're wearing period clothing, you kind of bring other stuff back up with you. Some friends of mine several years ago had an experience at Camp Wildcat here in Kentucky, where every time they laid down to go to sleep, they'd see somebody outside of their tent going through their stuff. They'd get up and they'd walk out and there would be no one there. It happened like 4 or 5 times. So I do believe that sometimes, I don't know if you would consider it time travel or a glitch in the Matrix or what, but sometimes I do believe that sometimes the past and the present sort of overlap a little bit, and you can see things that you shouldn't be seeing, and things from the past can see things that they shouldn't be seeing. Does that make any sense? Or am I just crazy?
Oh, no, I completely agree with you, but I think that glitches in the Matrix, and I think that all of that is the same thing. Like glitches in the Matrix, time travel, time slips, Mandela effect, alternate reality,
are all sort of related.
I do. I think that they're all really the same thing.
In the first time we recorded this episode, we told a very interesting story, and I think we should tell it again, of your dorm room from Moorhead. We're not going to go completely into detail, because eventually we will do an entire episode just on ghosts from this university, because it is a very haunted university.
My sophomore year at Moorhead, I lived in this really, really big dorm that was up if you're in Kentucky, you know it as a holler, but it was really just a little narrow road, and the building stretched between 2 hills. So there was like hill on one side, hill on the other side, very, very, very small parking lot in the back before you hit another hill. And actually, I say hill, but it's really the Daniel Boone National Forest. That room, honestly, there has to be an episode on Moorhead in general, because so much weird stuff happened there, and so much weird stuff just happened in this room. But
this dorm building was the scene of a very very famous on-campus suicide.
Yeah.
A girl had thrown herself off the roof. She didn't hit the ground. She hit the awning outside the lobby, which was technically the 2nd floor.
Right, and by awning, she really means a concrete portico kind of thing.
Yeah. She didn't die there. She died at the hospital, which the hospital is not far from the university.
No, the hospital is across the street from my house, which is probably a 1/4 of a mile from the university.
Yeah. But we're not going to... I don't know if what happened in this dorm room, in this particular thing that happened in this dorm room, is directly connected with this ghost.
Right. I don't know that either, but I do know that every night at around 10-ish, we would hear heels outside our room.
Click, 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 click on the concrete.
Yeah. But there was never anybody there. So
I experienced it once myself when I was up visiting for spring break. Like literally, we were walking. The hallway of the building was open air, and it was concrete. kind of like motels. Heard the heels clicking behind me and turned around and there was absolutely nobody behind me.
Yeah, they've remodeled that though. Now it's not open air anymore, and it's also co-ed, so like guys and girls can live on the same floor.
Weird.
Yeah. When I lived there, it was all girl. But anyway.
Yeah.
At this time, pretty much we never could keep a roommate, so in a 4-person room, it was always just me, Barb, and Heath. You would walk in the front door of this dorm, and you're in a little, we used it kind of as a kitchen. You know, we had our refrigerator, we had like any food that we had the computer set up there. And then the next room is really where we hung out. That's where the beds were. That's where we had our TV and all that. So,
and since there was only 3 people, there's only 2 people living in this, what should be a 4-person room. 2 beds pretty much became couches.
Yeah. Then, like beside that, it was kind. Okay, it's kind of set up like a suite in a hotel. So all the rooms are just kind of connected, like open wise. Then you've got a closet room, and off from that is just a toilet, and then the bathtub shower. The issue with this room is that you could open up the refrigerator, get something out, walk into the room with the beds that we used as a living room, and then you could hear yourself in the other room open the refrigerator and get whatever it was out that you wanted, and then hear your footsteps back to the room that you're standing in.
Almost every single time you do that.
Yeah. It was very weird. The first time that it happened, well, the first several times that it happened, we would walk back in there thinking that somebody had come in, because that is the room with the door.
But of course no one ever came in after you.
Right.
Very, very bizarre. I can't say that I've ever had a similar experience in any other place I've ever been.
Right. The closest thing to that would be one time when I was still away at school. I want to say that this happened my freshman year, though. My mom called me because our mom. I guess she's not just my mom. Mom.
Are you sure?
Possibly. I remember her being pregnant with you, so maybe she's just your mom. Anyway, Mom had come home one night. Like it was at night, but I don't know what time. And she saw me, like the way our house was, you would drive up the road in front of the house. Then you would have to turn down this little, like, driveway kind of thing, and then you would drive behind the house to park. But you would drive past 2 other houses before you drive up past 2 houses past us, turn, drive past those 2 houses, and then to us again. Does any of this make sense? Like, I mean, I know it because we lived it, but I hope they get what I'm saying. So as they were driving down behind the house to park, she could see into the house, and you passed, like, that's where the kitchen was on that. That's where the kitchen window was as you were driving.
And the kitchen window was very large.
Yeah. And she could see me in the house getting ice cream. And then she saw me walk to the living room with my bowl. But when they parked and got in the house, I wasn't there. So she calls me and tells me this, but I've clearly been at school an hour away.
I remember that. I remember when that happened. But I mean, we had things happen in our house growing up where we'd walk into a room and then hear, like, glasses breaking behind us, but nothing to the point where everything we had just done in that room echoes back to us. And that's what it kind of was in Moorhead. It was like an echo.
Right, but the room was not big enough that there could be an echo delayed that much. Like, maybe a second, like you open the refrigerator, maybe you hear it again. But it wasn't cavernous. Like, there shouldn't have been an echo.
No. I found a really interesting picture. There's this picture. I don't know what time period it was taken in. Probably the judging by the dresses, the 20s or 30s. All the men are wearing long sleeves, coats, hats, sitting on the beach. All the women are, dressed nice, wearing hats and gloves, except for this one man who's wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
Oh, wow. At least he wasn't wearing a Speedo.
Truth. So, I mean, what can we say? Is this photographic evidence of people that have gotten sent back in time? I mean, I know that the John Titor thing is absolutely fake, but there's some convincing evidence from our scientists that would lead me to believe that, yes, in fact, it is possible to travel forward and backwards into time.
So let's throw this out. If you have had an experience with time slips, glitch with the Matrix, you feel that you've been back in time, forward in time, on an alternate Earth, any of those, or anything similar that I have left out, tell us about it. And maybe we will have a time episode 2 or something.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. Because, I think this is one of those episodes where we could have multiples of.
Here's an interesting one. It's an urban legend, so no, I've not proved that it is true or not, but Rudolph Fentz.
Oh. I thought you were going with Red-Nosed Reindeer.
No, in June of 1950, he was hit by a taxi cab near Times Square. In his pocket were copper tokens for beer, a bill of care for a horse, and the washing of a carriage, a letter dated 1876, $70, and business cards.
Okay.
When the NYPD was searching through missing persons, they found a missing person who matched his description, who went missing in 1876 at the age of 29.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes me sad. Like, was his horse cared for?
I hope so.
I know. These are the things that I worry about. Like, if I time travel, cool.
Who's going to
take care of my animals? Because I have, at this moment, 5 baby kitties and a baby bunny. And I don't even live on a farm.
Did your rabbit just have one baby kitty? And one baby bunny?
My bunny had one baby bunny. My cat had 5 baby kitties.
There is a rumor that the Montauk Air Force Station has a tunnel that you can walk through and travel back in time.
Well, that's cool.
Yes.
I think that it would be cool if, like, you were at Disney and, like, they had a tunnel that would take you back in time. Like, for real.
That seems like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Maybe.
I totally believe in time travel. I do. I don't know how it is possible because I am not a scientist, but I absolutely believe in time travel. And I figure that I'm in really good company because if Stephen Hawking and Einstein and all of these other amazing minds can believe that it's possible, then I kind of got to go with them.
Right, because they probably forget more in a day than I will ever know.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe at some point science will advance enough that we can have personal time machines. I doubt it, though, because it seems like it's something that if it's proven that we can do it, our government will latch onto this and we will never know about it.
Well, okay, yes, but I kind of feel like that's important that they do that.
Because people use it for their own advantage?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm usually not all for, like, I don't like control at all. Like, I like to be fully in control of everything involving my life. But let's say that your neighbors, the race car people across the street from you, have a time machine. Do you know what the first thing that they're going to do is?
What?
They're going to go back in time to 2001 and they're going to save Dale Earnhardt.
Oh my God, my neighbors would. You're right.
I mean, and not that saving Dale Earnhardt is not good, but let's talk about the butterfly effect and all the things that will change. I mean, listen, have we not learned anything from Back to the Future? You can't mess with time.
Average people are not responsible enough to handle time travel.
Right, they're not. Even the most responsible person is probably not responsible enough to time travel. Because they would mess it up. But I mean, not meaning to, they would just mess it up.
Truth. You are right. But it would be fun.
Yeah, and there are points in my life that I would like to go back and change, but I know that if I did, that it would mess up other areas completely. Of not just my life, but of other people's lives.
But sometimes you like messing up other people's lives.
I do.
You're a bit evil when it comes to that.
Yeah, I know. Our stupid criminal today.
Do we have a stupid criminal for today?
Oh, we do. And he's apparently from my town. I mean, it's not often that our stupid criminal, has our stupid criminal ever came from the towns that we live in?
I don't
think so either. I mean, we've had stupid criminals in Kentucky, but I don't know that our stupid criminal has ever been, in our town. But today it is. Okay, so stupid criminal. I'm not for sure if I have his name. Oh, yes. Okay, Joseph Mirus was in Clearfield, which is actually the little neighborhood that our dad lives in.
And you used to live there.
And then I used to live there. Late Wednesday night, so by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll be a week ago. He was standing outside a state trooper's house, shooting it.
Which is a major mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he knew that a state trooper lived there or if he was just shooting at a house. Somebody called and said, there's this dude shooting at this house. So a deputy found the truck matching the description, and the guy was leaning out his window screaming at the cop, which makes me think that, he did know that it was a state trooper's house. The deputy turns around, follows the truck. He's swerving all over the road, and he led the guy, or Joseph Mirus led the cop on a chase down 60, which I know that you guys listening don't know what that is, but it's
major road through there.
It's a major road. I can see 60, well, not really from my porch, but if I walk maybe 10 feet, I can see 60. The chase lasted through the downtown, and he pulled into the driveway of his home.
At which point he got out of his car, started walking towards the deputy's car, asking him what he thought he was doing.
Yeah.
So this man found himself placed in some shiny silver handcuffs and taken to jail.
In his car, they found a Glock and a .38.
And shell casings in the tailbed of his truck that matched the bullets that was fired into the home.
And an entire box of ammo.
Yeah. And, of course, he failed every field sobriety test they gave him. He was blown out of his way, drunk. Yeah. But, I mean, I bet when he walked into the jail, though, he was, hailed as a hero because he shot up a trooper's house.
Probably.
Because that's how stupid criminals do. I think this might actually be our first stupid criminal from your town, Holly.
It is, but I just wanted... I generally avoid clicking on comments because 99% of the time clicking on comments and reading them makes... I don't even have a blood pressure issue, but it makes my blood pressure go through the roof because there are idiot people and they all seem to find their way to the comments. But I clicked on the comments. Actually, I clicked on the comments where a friend of mine had shared it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get these two comments. The news has made this out to be way worse than it was. I'm not really for sure how not bad it was that somebody was shooting at somebody's house and then driving drunk down, some major roads. That seems pretty bad to me. I mean, any way you say that, it doesn't sound good. But then somebody else commented that person is just a good guy. Yeah.
Well, he was shooting up a cop's house. You know what? I don't care if he was shooting up the worst person in Moorhead's house. You don't shoot at people's houses.
Right.
Because while you're doing that, you endanger everybody in that area.
Not just whoever lives in the house and any possible innocent kids.
Alcohol and firearms don't mix.
Alcohol and driving
Ever.
does not mix. And I'm sorry, but good guys do not shoot other people's houses, and good guys don't drive drunk.
You know what alcohol does mix really well with?
Sleeping.
Keeping your butt on your own property and having fun on your own property, doing things that isn't going to result in anybody getting killed or injured. No fireworks. I'm looking at you, people who fled the hospitals after the 4th of July with their hand blown off.
They should all be stupid
But yeah,
criminals too.
if you just want to stay at your house and light your barbecue and grill some steaks and drink some beers, or if you want to get plastered and cuss at people on Xbox, go for it. But don't endanger my life by getting on the road or shooting at my house. We're very preachy today, Holly.
We are. Of course, we're almost always preachy.
Yeah, time travel is awesome. Getting drunk and shooting at people's houses, not awesome. I think that's easy rules to live by.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So, let's go back in time and find this guy before he got in his car to drive to that trooper's house and just tell him to sit on his couch and drink some more beer.
But you know what? He'd probably shoot us because he's a really good guy.
But you've got a gun too, so.
Yeah, I do. So I'm probably going to get hate mail from people in my town for talking about that.
No one in your town listens to us.
They might. I don't know.
We'll have to pull up the Podbean and see where they're from.
Yeah. Yeah, so listen, if you listen to us and you live in this town and you want to send us anonymous messages, I can find you.
You're not anonymous.
You're not anonymous. Okay. See, I just threatened our listeners.
Not the good listeners, just the bad ones who are going to threaten us.
Right.
Don't threaten us. Just, hang out on our Instagram and tell us that you think our show is awesome.
Yeah. We like those listeners. The true crime person that we're doing next week is not somebody who is really well known, but they're pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
And at one point, I'm not going to tell you who, but I'm just going to say at one point when their place was raided, a female officer literally vomited. And I mean, we're talking about, people who see all kinds of stuff day in and day out, and it made them literally ill.
I actually have a couple really awesome true crime episodes coming up in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah. So
kind of not super well known,
but extremely
episodes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. If you like true crime, we also have a pretty interesting mystery paranormally episode coming up soon. So. And we are actively working on our schedule of episodes for next year. So if you have a suggestion, send us an email.
Yes. And actually, Ernie gave me some suggestions, and they're really cool, and I can't wait till we do them.
Yeah.
And fun fact, he has promised to come on those episodes with us.
Well, that's good, considering he's kind of an expert in it, since it's his
topic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. And I know what those episodes are going to be, and you are going to love them.
Yeah, you are. So, we mentioned it earlier that you're not anonymous because we have Podbean. If you would like to have your own podcast and know where all of your listeners are coming from because you like to know those things, Podbean is the host site for you because they have fantastic analytical tools. They're super easy. They integrate well with YouTube. They integrate well with pretty much everything. Twitter and Facebook, and all of that is really just a click away to have it posting.
YouTube, And like, Holly was really nervous about me wanting a YouTube channel because she didn't know how we was going to make it work. And it makes uploading to YouTube a breeze.
It does. We have an awesome website and it's all because of Podbean. And I mean, I really just can't say enough wonderful things about them. They're super easy. They more than deliver on what their promises are, and
which is important to us.
It is, because we don't have a lot of time to do all of these things individually. So it's awesome that Podbean handles YouTube and all of that for us, and that they handle the website for us, and it's, you know, the cost is really affordable. So I mean, it's just a win-win-win all around. And if you want to have your own and you want to use Podbean, which I highly suggest, you can use our affiliate code, which is Haunted Family PB, and we get a small kickback from that.
Yeah, and of course that money will go straight into our hosting fees because.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm just going to say right now, I've been amazed by how much this podcast has grown over the last few months. And I want to really thank all of our listeners. We love doing this podcast.
We do.
So we'd probably be doing it even if nobody listened to us.
We're just glad that you do listen to
But
us.
it's so much more fun when it's more than just two sisters screaming at each other on Skype.
Yeah. Which
we're really glad to let you all into our dysfunction once a week. Okay. Now, I was just saying that I was looking over our download stats for the past few months, and I'm really amazed at how much we've just exploded over the past few months.
Yeah, when we first started, I honestly didn't think that we were going to get anybody, which actually kind of brings me to, we had a listener question this week.
Yes. Miss Carmen. Hello, Carmen.
Hi, Carmen. Thanks for listening.
Asked us about our early episodes. And when we switched our host service from the host service we had been using to Podbean, we didn't take over those early episodes because they were really bad.
We had to kind of not manually upload, but by manually upload, I mean I literally just clicked on the name of the episodes and it added it. But those earlier episodes were really terrible. I mean, they were. I know that we laugh about our production quality because I'm literally sitting on my bed, which is right beside the main road in town, and there's constantly traffic. And you know, I know I've mentioned this before that the hospital is across the street from me, so every ambulance that goes by, you guys hear that siren. And sometimes I can edit it out and sometimes I can't, which is why I really hope that I'm moving into my house soon so that I can at least have a little studio.
You know, funny enough, Holly, I'm also recording on my bed.
See, so we do not have we don't have the money that other podcasts have.
Yeah.
We just love doing this, so we just do it however we can and hope that people can overlook, you know, the car sounds and the ducks quacking and the children running up and down the hallway. And
we're not professionals. We are not we're not part of any podcasting network.
No, so we don't get any money.
We don't have a big fancy studio. It's just us with our microphones and our laptops sitting on our beds, praying that our neighbors don't start up the race cars.
Right. And while that's fine for now, and you know, we make it known to you that that's the quality that you're going to get for now. We at least want the topic quality to be better. We do expect a lot of ourselves on the quality of our content. And those earlier episodes was, I mean, literally they were just big balls of crap. I mean, they sucked so bad. The quality was terrible. We didn't know what we were doing. We were really just stumbling around trying to figure out what was going to work for us. And in the beginning, we weren't even, like, we didn't even have Skype. Then we couldn't get it to work. We I would record on my ex-boyfriend's voice recorder.
Well, usually sitting in her car.
Well, usually sitting in my car. Heather would record, however, and then we would try to cobble them together. And that's no way to have an episode. And it was beyond terrible, and we want more for you than that. So what we're doing is trying to re-record those episodes and make the quality of the content what we want it to be.
I think we have I think in October we're doing a revision of a previous episode that we're going to release. And yeah, so I mean, we're slowly but surely redoing our early episodes and then re-releasing them. You'll see a lot more over next year of redoing early episodes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about that, but the episode quality was just so terrible that I didn't want it to be a part of our new Podbean host site. You know, it was just, you guys deserve way more than that.
Okay, so remember, listeners, the first one to comment on the Instagram picture that is associated with this episode to tell us who said, "I can't believe in a few hours I shall be dead," in a southern accent, gets a Haunted Family Podcast bloody handprint t-shirt handmade by the fabulous Holly.
You can't tell us Anne Boleyn. We know Anne Boleyn said it. Who said it in a southern accent? And actually, I'm going to go an extra step. If you can tell us where she said it, I will throw in I don't know. What else should I throw in? We'll throw in a handful of Haunted Family Podcast buttons.
Yay! I think that sounds like a winning deal.
Yep. So, if you can tell us who said it, you get a shirt. If you can tell us where she said it, you will get some buttons. Exciting. I like a contest.
Me too. We don't do them enough on this show. How about, we'll discuss coming up with another, contest in a month or two. How about that, Holly?
That sounds good. I think we should do a Halloween contest.
Okay, that works for me. Stay tuned for details on that contest, too.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye. Bye.